Ah,
This is a recording between Latifah, Taormina, and Emmanuel, Aronie, and I will let you get on with it.
great. Thank you very much,
Okay.
Rahman.
See you later.
Thank you, Rahman.
Okay.
You have
Hi, Emmanuel.
We have 40 minutes. Okay. All right. Fire
Hey,
away.
Emmanuel, I want to ask you about your upcoming visit to Ukraine and why you want to do that. But first, what I thought would be interesting is to go back and
Okay.
try to share what it is that led to this decision you're about to make, to move to Ukraine as an
Oh.
American citizen who's been living here and growing up here and doing lots of things here, how you got to that point.
Okay.
And no, maybe it began a long time ago, because you told me you had a Ukrainian grandmother who very much influenced your life way
Yes.
back when
Yeah.
you were teeny weeny.
Yes, it's true. When I was a little guy, there was my grandmother making fancy pastries that I loved as a child, and she loved me very much. She called me Sati or Malchik, she called me Boya's boy.
Boy, oh boy.
Boya's boy.
Did she call you
My father's name was Boaz, and she called me Boya's boy. It's like, she had a very thick Russian accent or Ukrainian accent, so anyway.
Anyway, and so, and I know you said when you went to school, when you were in high school, you started studying Russian.
Yes, we did.
High school.
Right.
And it became available, I guess, in your high school after the Cuban Missile Crisis.
Right. Well, yeah, and Soviets were always the very strong opponent for the USA. So it was the Cold War, and I thought it would be a good idea for someone to be able to talk to these people. And since I had kind of collected stamps as a kid, and the Russian stamps were always kind of interesting, and so I don't know, I felt like it was a natural choice, So, and we learned. Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. You go ahead.
Oh, it's funny because in the beginning we would learn these sentences, like we would learn three sentences that had to do with various things in Russian. So one of them was like, my sister tells me that in American schools they are teaching the Russian language. So it went like this. It went, моя сестра мне сказала, что в американских школах теперь изучают русский язык. So my sister told me that in American schools they're now teaching the Russian language. So yeah.
Well, when I took Russian in college for 1 year,
Oh, you did.
And all I learned was how to say "Я не знаю ничего," which means I don't know anything.
Right. Я не знаю. I don't know anything. Yeah.
And then later, when you were in college, though, you continued with your Russian, so you became quite expertise, I would imagine.
Well, no, a little bit more, but unless you live in a country, and it was still Russian, not Ukrainian. So when I taught English in Ukraine, I discovered quickly that I wasn't very politically correct for Ukraine, because more than once someone said, "Oh, by the way, you don't pronounce Kiev. It's not pronounced Kiev. It's Kiev."
Yes.
And I said, well, I'm sorry. I took Russian and I learned Russian, and to learn Ukrainian is a whole another thing. It's a different language,
Yes. Well, I think it was burned into us because I think we all read Chekhov, and Chekhov was always having dramas where people went off to Kiev.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So anyway, then later, I understand that how is it that a Playboy article made you think now's the time to go to Ukraine?
Well, first of all, when I saw Gorbachev's face.
Oh, it's Gorbachev.
Gorbachev, yeah. The article in Playboy was about Gorbachev.
I see.
And so I thought I would bring that article with me. So it was in my things. So at the border, when the Soviet border guards come on the train, they look through all your things and they found my Playboy. And it's like they take it out of my things like they're picking up a little rat, like, like they go like this. Now, what is this? Pornography. And I said, it's not pornography. I said, it's an article about Gorbachev in there. And I tried to show them, but they take it out of my hands. And suddenly the Playboy disappears and down the corridor, and every one of the guards looks at all these, all the pictures in Playboy, and not the article, but all the pictures in Playboy, of course. But and so all the people in the coupe with 3 other people in the coupe were laughing and thought it was very funny. Anyway, they finally gave me the Playboy back, and I entered Ukraine.
Where did you end up on that trip?
On the trip I went, that initial trip was through the Soviet Union, and we finished in Moscow, and then I flew to Stockholm, and then I took a train to Oslo, and then I flew back to America from there.
So at some point, though, you returned, and you had you also another tour, I believe, and you had a very significant experience in Vilnius. Can you tell us about that?
Well, yes, I can, actually. Unexpected. You know, when I got to Vilnius, it was,
back up a bit. What made you, what was that trip? And how is it that Vilnius was on the map for you?
Well, I picked out, I was in New York, and I had enough money to go to the Soviet Union, and I decided to pick out 5 cities that interested me. And Vilnius was where my grandfather was born.
I see.
And lived, and I wanted to go there. So, and I remember the look on the face, because there at that time it was still the Soviet Union, and I remember when my train came in, I about to leave the train and have my things, and I look down and I see this very well dressed lady, excellent hairdo, beautiful looking, and I have all my things, and I'm the American she's supposed to meet, but she wants to meet Tom Hanks, and it's Emmanuel. It's not Tom Hanks, and I see the disappointment in her eyes, and like, oh, okay. So she accompanies me to my hotel and then disappears, and I never see her again. So, but
well, I think you should complain to Tom Hanks.
Right. But the next morning, I'm a little immediately a little not paranoid, but careful and cautious. And I go down, I have my breakfast, and I decide to just disappear out of the hotel and walk down to the river, which runs through Vilnius, and I sit there quietly for about a half an hour. Just I want to see if people are actually watching me. But it's the summer, and I see a family. And men and their wives, and they're in t-shirts, they're drinking already. It's 10 o'clock in the morning. And I finally relax a little bit. I go down on the walkway and walk towards the bridge along the river. And I see these 2 guys, fishermen, at a place. And I say hello. And one of them speaks a little English and says, do you want a guide? And I say, well, sure. And so he becomes my guide, and we go across the bridge and up into this castle. And but on the way to the castle, I'm walking along, and I see this old man going up the path in our direction. And as I pass him, I say, "Молодец," good going. It's like give him a little energy, and so. But then we go up to the castle. I forget about the old man, and we see a castle full of armaments, and where terrible things went on, and just the law of the jungle, really, and kind of an unpleasant place. I didn't want to be in there very long. So I'm on my way out and down the path, and I see that the old man is sitting on the stone wall resting. And as we go along, and my guide wants to go quickly to lunch and maybe get a little money for what he did. So he's ahead of me, but I want to look at the old man. So I turn to look at the old man, and all of a sudden, like a kind of not blinding light, but I feel like this pure love enters my brain, and I feel kind of my whole brain kind of like turning into mush, like a love mush or something. I mean, I just feel like this very strong bolt of love, and it had to have come from the old man. And I wanted to stop and ask him who he was, but I was already in motion, and so I just anyway, I followed my guide. I didn't stop, and that night in my hotel room, I do a kind of what I call is pure prayer, and asking the cosmos to inform me about everything, just kind of an open experience, what I call the latihan, and so in this process, in this thing that I do, this activity I do, I feel suddenly that another bolt of light, just like from the old man, again, enters my head, and I feel my head kind of opening up, not like in any bad way, but just in a kind of inspired way. And I see and feel and know that Subud or light is going to come to this part of the world. And
We were in Subud, and I'm in Subud as also. So
yes.
this was a Subud experience for you.
Yes. Oh, yes, definitely. But for people who are not familiar with the latihan or Subud, I would have
Well,
to.
for people, yes, but you can look it up. I mean, it's a spiritual movement like many others out
Right.
there in the world,
Right.
international. It's all
Right.
over in several different countries.
Right. So anyway, so I have this experience of light and this path that I've been on for years and years, coming to this part of the world, and I'm just amazed. I said, well, boy, it's going to come, and but I didn't know that I was going to be involved. I just knew that it was going to come. I ended up, and then the next day I flew to Kiev, and they wouldn't allow a train. I wanted to go by train, but it was going too close to Chernobyl, so they took a plane from Vilnius to Kiev. And I had not so spiritual experience there. It was more like almost, well, I don't know. I just kind of went to an all-night party, and we drank everything there was to drink, and I don't know. It was, I was still a pretty young man, and so we drank all night, and there was just two of us left. But in the morning, I said, "Geez, I think I have a flight to Odessa today. Maybe I better go back to my hotel room and check." So I went back and checked, and sure enough, I had a flight to Odessa, and I had to say goodbye to my friends, and without any sleep, I flew to Odessa, and where I had more adventures. But anyway, this was kind of a preparation for a couple of years later, when I am informed, after I had been invited to go to Ukraine for like 3 months, and had been resisting this offer. I had another one of these Subud experiences, and I'm in Austin, Texas, and in my room. And
This is after you came back. This is after you came back.
after I come back, and now
Was it the same year or later?
no. This is now 3 years later.
Okay.
3 years later, and it's now
This is when I knew you in Austin.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it's now 1991.
Yes.
And I'm in Austin, Texas. And in September, my friend Betty in Dallas wants me to come to Ukraine with her the next year in May. And come, it's going to be fun. You can teach something. And I said, no, I don't want to teach anything. I had this kind of negative experience in Poland, so I didn't want to go to Eastern Europe again. But she invited me again in October and in November. And I said, no, and no, and no. And then in December, I have this experience. And in the experience, I feel very quiet inside, and then a kind of light above my head. And And in the movement, I'm kind of up on my toes, and there's very strong light and a feeling of love or something in my head. And I hear this little voice or loud voice inside me. It says, go to Ukraine and talk about Subud.
Yes.
And suddenly I go, oh my God, why couldn't I understand? That's what I was supposed to do. So I called up my friend Betty and said, Betty, can I still participate? And she said, well, you're just in time. There's one more week. So you can call up this lady in California. Her name is Kayla. And here's her number. And I called up Kayla and I said, I'd like to be part of your group that goes to Ukraine. And she said, what are you going to talk about? And I said, well, I'll talk about Subud. And she said, what's Subud? And I said, well, it's kind of a way of being in touch with the guidance of God, and through a kind of just listening, a listening exercise, and, listening and following exercise. So she said, that sounds pretty good. Why don't you send me a paragraph about it? And
This is the group that was called the California Healers.
yeah, I think that's what they were called.
Yeah.
And so I sent her a one-page description of Subud, and I still have it somewhere in my things. And she sent that to Ukraine, and they put it into their advertisements, and they had these big posters in Kiev and Cherkasy, and it said that the California Healers and listed the things that would be presented. And the third one was Subud, which in Russian looks like a C,
Yes.
and then a Y, which is an U. The C is an S,
Yes.
and Y is an U, and the B is kind of shaped like a
delta.
curly Q thing. And again, the Y like for an U, and the D, which is a delta,
Yes.
And it said, how did they put it? It was like hearing the voice of God, comma, the Indonesian method. Something like that,
Yes.
So I thought that was pretty cute.
Is it something like that? Can you see?
Yes, exactly like that. Right. No, but the B is wrong. The B is wrong.
I don't know how you do the B. I forgot how you do the B. It's all right.
Here, let me, here. It looks more like this. Oops.
It's not dark enough for me to see.
Oh,
But we
okay.
can do that later.
Oh, we'll do it later. Okay. Anyway, so anyway, I still have the original poster somewhere in my things. I don't know. It's
So after it was advertised, did you have a lot of people show up?
well, it was different in each city. In Kiev, I remember we presented at a place called House of Scientists on Vladimirskaya Street, and it was a big hall, about 125 people, and we were up on these wooden chairs, these kind of harsh wooden chairs, kind of uncomfortable wooden chairs, and I was the 8th person out of 10 to present. So I was already didn't like talking in front of people, but I was the 8th to present. So it was, I have to say, there was a bit of an uncomfortable process. And so while I was waiting and people were coming into the place, the place was filling up, I asked inside myself, if there's anybody out there who's interested in Subud, God, can you show them to me? Not really believing that I would receive anything, but it just came out of me. Just show them to me. And sure enough, about 2 minutes later, a guy walks in the place, and as he walks in and begins to sit down, I get a kind of glow around me, a strong glow like you get when you're listening to inspiring music. And you feel a kind of around you, a kind of glow, and you say, wow, that's great music. Well, that's how I felt. And so he sat down, and then the glow kind of just diminishes a little bit. And a minute or so later, another guy walks in, and I get a glow around me again. And he sits next to the first guy. And then a third guy comes in, I get another glow. And those 3 guys became all became helpers in Subud, national helpers or regular helpers in Subud. So they all came into Subud and they all became helpers. So,
So how did it happen that everybody, that from that point of just presenting about Subud to a general audience, that later there's a whole group and groups in Ukraine? What was the progression that led that meeting to your being with a group of members who really want to come into Subud?
Well, these went on for the meetings went on for like 4 days. At this meeting, people would sign up for workshops. Okay, so I presented 4 days worth of workshops. So each day, people would come and ask about Subud, a small group. So in the beginning, the first day was a much bigger group, like 40 people, and excuse me, the second day was smaller, like 12 people, and the third day was like even smaller, like 4 or 5 people. And the last day, we're like waiting and there's no one there. And they want to go to some workshop on something. I forget what it was. And I said, wait just 5 more minutes, And in 5 more minutes, these 2 guys wander in. And one of the 2 guys was responsible for bringing Subud to Dnepropetrovsk. The 4th city that Subud came to, not Kharkov, which was the 3rd city, but Dnepropetrovsk was the 4th city. So, and because he told me at that time, he said, I know a group of people in Dnepropetrovsk, which is now Dnipro, they would be very interested in Subud. And I said, well, great, here's my number. Call me up when you're ready to have a visit. So that's how it got to Dnepropetrovsk. After I presented in Kiev and did the workshops, there was a small group of people who had expressed a wish to join Subud, and I made a list of people. So, and I told them that they could not, they couldn't be opened, they couldn't enter Subud right away, and they would have to wait. And they were a little disappointed, especially the first group. They were so disappointed that I had to do something. So what I did with them, I said, well, I can't open you. I said, but I can give you a feeling of the latihan, I get a feeling of what it is, this process, this energy, what Subud is. So I said, just everybody get quiet. And if you want, like we do before a latihan, you take all the metal out of your pocket, you take your glasses off, put them to the side, and be quiet for about 5-10 minutes. Well, we were quiet for about 5 minutes, and the energy in the room was so thick you could cut it with a knife. I mean, people really felt something there. And I think maybe even some people were opened in that first session. It's possible. So that's the kind of thing that I did in these 4 workshops. And, they were all different depending on the group of people. That went on in Kiev, and then in Cherkasy, there was even a bigger group of people that were interested in joining Subud. So I think something like 65 people initially got opened in Cherkasy, and something like 33 got opened in Kiev. So that was the first group of people. Where there was about 98 people that joined Subud ultimately, but they had to wait for 2 months because in July, some international helpers came and joined me, and there were 2 women and 1 guy, and they joined me, and we ended up going to both cities and opening about 98 people. So that was.
And then how did it spread? And then they themselves spread it to other cities?
No. One day I'm in my apartment with my housekeeper, and my housekeeper reminded me of my grandmother a lot. But she said, Seth, my name was Seth at the time. Seth, you have a call. Someone called. And so I come to the kitchen and get on the phone, and the voice says, hello in English. He says, hello, this is Valery Gomnikov from Gorod Kharkov, from Kharkov. And he said, I hear that you could come and give some workshops about Subud. And I said, yes. He said, well, when can you come? I said, Friday, how about Friday? He said, fine, I'll set it up. This was a Monday. This was 4 days later. So I had to arrange for a translator to come with me because my Russian was, okay, I can upgrade. The meeting will end in 10 minutes. Upgrade now to remove the 40. I'm going to upgrade. Okay. All right. So we have 40 more minutes.
Okay.
Anyway, that's what it said. Anyway, so, but okay. It says there's actually 10 more minutes. Rahman, it says I have only 10 more minutes.
Say that again.
It says I only have 10 more minutes here. Or upgrade to pro. So see here, meeting time 9:20, or upgrade to pro.
No, just, you have 10 more minutes and then we can start.
Oh, well, then we'll start it up again. Okay, I see. So this is going to be in 2 parts. So we'll start
Okay.
we'll start it up again after about 9 minutes. So anyway, so we ended up going to Kharkov, and I remember the day that we arrived, we went to the Zhebko's apartment, and as soon as I step into this apartment, I feel like, wow, Subud is already here. It felt like Subud actually wasn't there, but it felt like it was there, you know? And then their little boy, this Zhenya, their son, sees my little video camera, and his eyes get real big, like, whoa, and what is that? And I say, "Ты знаешь, что такое это?" And do you know what this is? He shakes his head. You know what this is? And he shakes his head. I said, it's a video apparat. It's a video camera. I said, we can make movies. And I said, would you like to make a movie? And he goes, yes. And so I say, well, should we make a movie about? And he says he doesn't know. He shakes his head. And the cockroach runs across the floor. And I say, well, let's interview the cockroach. And what do you think? And he says, oh, okay. I give him a microphone. I say, you ask the questions and I'll videotape. And so he put the microphone over by the cockroach. It was a very good interviewee. And he doesn't know what to ask. So I say, ask him how life is with the Zhebkos. Is it okay? Do you have enough food? Did they charge you rent? I mean, how is it? How's your life? Really. So it was a very funny time we had there. But eventually, some other people came, and we opened about 30 people in Kharkov. And
you opened about 30 people and the cockroach?
No, in Kharkov. And the cockroach was probably already also opened. Yeah, but and in the following January, we went to Dnipropetrovsk, and we talked in front of about 40 or 50 people there, and a group, I don't know, 20 or 30 people got opened in that city. So
So from when to when did this whole Subud Ukraine have more than one group? And how long a period of time was it between the time the first member got opened and the time there were groups in, like, what, 3 cities, 4 cities?
Okay, well, okay. So I went there in May of '92, and in July of '92, the international helpers came and we opened people in 2 cities. So
Yeah.
That was Kiev and Cherkasy. And then about a couple of months later, or a month later, I get a call and we go to Kharkov. And about 3 months after that, a group is established in Kharkov. So that's then 3 cities. And then in January of '93, a 4th city appears, and that's Dnipropetrovsk, which is now Dnipro. And eventually, probably in March or April of that year, we opened a bunch of people in that city. So
And when did you open people in Russia?
I didn't open people in Russia.
Did
Yeah.
they?
People in Russia, Subud was already in Russia, but it was very, very, very small. And no, they may have, I don't know if they went to Russia or not, but there were people in Russia with the latihan much earlier, like in maybe 88 or 89 even. But it was very tiny and didn't grow. And I sort of knew why it didn't grow, but I wasn't for me to do anything on that. So yeah. So my involvement with Russia was very, very tangential. I didn't spend much time there at all. So yeah.
So when did you just fast forward to present day,
Okay.
and you've already been there
Yeah.
in the midst of all of this, and you want to go back and live there?
Yes.
You-
Well,
want-
I've lived in Ukraine 3 different times for about 3 years total. So I lived in 92 to 93, and 95 to 96, and 99 to 2000. So I've already lived there 3 years, and I go there every year, at least twice a year for the last 30 years. So it's not like something new. And I recently sold my house and I retired, and I figured, well, I don't want to, it's not that I don't like the United States, but I really love Ukraine. And I thought, what a great place to retire. So that was my thinking. So
And the fact that it's a war zone doesn't challenge you?
well, of course it challenges my mind, but inside me, I've always felt like it's going to be fine. At least for me, it's going to be fine. Or, if God decides to throw a bomb on my head, what can I do? Just it's not, my days are numbered. And how long is it? Do I have a year? Do I have 10 years? Do I have 20 years? Do I have 10 minutes? I don't know. That's not up to me. I do the best I can to survive and be healthy, but ultimately I'm in God's hands,
What would you want your brothers and sisters in Subud who are not in Ukraine, who have nice places to live, who have more or less secure living? How can they help the situation there, besides giving money, things like that?
Okay.
Do you have other thoughts than the traditional channels of sending money? Oh, I've done something, so I'm done.
Okay. Yes. Well, of course, sending money is fine. I've sent money myself, and I've inquired, because there's groups in Europe and elsewhere that have sent money and wanted to help, but I think it's easy to miss the boat, and people are very shy about money. So I've done more personal inquiries and asked around and discovered, well, there are other people that could really use, $400, $500, $600, $1,000. And so my giving has been much more directed and pointed, and, and in that way. But yeah, so I mean, I think if not money, I think just emotional support, spiritual support, be with your brothers and sisters that are in Ukraine, and be in your soul and your heart with these folks. And as I said in this interview with the TV lady in Kiev, I said, I'm not against Russia. I said, I just love Ukraine. They're just my people. And so, yeah, because war is hell. I mean, I don't care which side you are. Every time a soldier dies, it's someone's son, it's someone's father, it's someone's brother, and it's regrettable,
Yeah.
So I don't want anybody to win or to lose. particularly, but I don't want Ukraine to go away. I don't want it to vanish into the dust of history, you know? So the only way I can help with this is to be there personally and say, I'm going to be in the place where I think, you know, I should be, you know? So,
And you're not scared.
yeah, I don't think I'm scared. I've been close to death before, and you know, I'm not afraid, you know, no.
Well,
Ask him if there's some outstanding people he would like to
I-
describe.